game overall?
No, I'm really disappointed. That's for sure one of the worst days we've had here since I've been here. For lack of energy, lack of spark, lack of intensity, both with and without the ball. And I think it's maybe a strange thing to say, but we lost that game in the first half for not using the possession, the territory. I'm loath to use the word dominance because it didn't feel like we were particularly dominant, but we certainly could have been dominant if we'd used the ball well. And I think that'll be one of the games that the players look back and they will kick themselves for how easy we turned the ball over, how lacking we were for spark and energy around the top of the box. And I think it was one of those games in the first half. It felt dead. There was very little energy to the stadium. There was very little energy to our play, to their play, and I felt it was one of those games where it was there for us to take it. And the longer went on, and the more we failed to find that intensity and that little bit of life that I think would have seen us home fairly comfortably today, the more risk there was of how it played out becoming a reality. So we're really disappointed. The players are really disappointed. But for me, generally in these situations, we've used these instances, and these instances have meant something moving forward, and that's a message that I've given to the players in there. We've got to be able to use this. This has got to mean something in the coming weeks, because there has to be amongst everyone who's involved in that sense of real disappointment and self-criticism come tomorrow morning.
Is it one of those days, or is it a symptom of something deeper that's gone wrong there?
No, I don't think it's a symptom of anything that has been present in many of the games that we've played over the course of this year so far. I think everyone would look at that team today and say it bordered on unrecognisable in terms of the lack of life in the first half. I think, we've come off the back of 2 games in which we hadn't scored prior to that, but I think there were certainly signs of life and energy and intensity that today just weren't there at all. So I couldn't stand here honestly and put my finger on exactly what that was, but I think if you multiply poor performances across the team on the ball, then that is going to equate to a pretty messy picture, which we saw. And I would also say that extended to how we were off the ball. I don't think we had that level of aggression, intensity, desperation to turn the ball over and create counter-attacks that we've had at our best this year. So I think it's a real missed opportunity for us, and one, as I say, that everyone will wake up tomorrow feeling pretty bad about, I would say.
You mentioned the first half. You did not allow any shots, really, in the first half for Vancouver. How do you compare that to the second half, where you did end up giving up 3 goals?
Yeah, well, that's where I say we lost the game in the first half, because we had the lion's share of the game, I would say, and we were good without being excellent defensively. But I'll also caveat that by saying I don't think they created a great deal. They didn't cause us many problems in the first half, but the second half, as time goes on, I think we just lack that energy and intensity and discipline out of possession that we've shown more often than not. But largely, I think it was an on-the-ball problem today. I think we turned the ball over far too cheaply. I think we to use that term, unforced errors. I think we saw 30, 40 of those over the course of the game, which really cost us in terms of rhythm. And then when the ball turned over in the second half, our reactions were poor, and we did not look that cohesive unit that we've looked for probably 9 out of the 10 games largely this year. So I'm hoping that this is an anomaly, one that we move forward from, and largely we do. So I'm certainly not one of those coaches that we lose one game in 9 and then suddenly I'm putting all the blame on the players in any way. But I do feel this is one of those days where they'll feel really disappointed with themselves, because I think the game was there to be taken.
What did you see in the incident at the end of the game where Drew Fischer came over, talked to you guys?
Yeah, I think the league's got a really clear process for how those types of instances are dealt with. Obviously, it's almost impossible for coaches to comment on something that's happened miles away, and largely for all the players as well. I think it's one of those instances that will fall into the league's wider process. I'm sure there'll be an investigation, and that's probably all I'll say on it at the moment, because I think it's very difficult for people in my position to comment on that sort of thing. And I think the league they're so thorough and robust in processes around that type of thing, because they are so difficult to deal with. And we sat through a workshop in pre-season as to how those types of instances are dealt with, and that was pretty much to the script. So I'll probably comment no more on that.
Was it a case of Vancouver saying they heard something from Joseph Rosales?
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear as to how people would have perceived that incident. But I think it's for them to investigate, and obviously you guys would know, or your intuition would tell you that these types of situations are very difficult to deal with, and there are a lot of grey areas. So it's difficult for me to stand here and give you anything concrete on that, unfortunately.
Do you know what happened in the tunnel after the game?
I don't. No, as far as I was concerned, we had our players in the tunnel within probably a fraction of the time that they would normally take to come in. So it all seemed pretty calm to me.
What did you feel like were the issues defensively getting opened up?
I think it was to do. It has to do with easy turnovers of the ball for me, and you turn the ball over very easily, and suddenly you find yourself in poor positions when the ball is with the opposition. And for us, we've talked a lot in these press conferences post game about having enough consecutive passes to make sure the team is really well connected when the ball turns over. Today that wasn't the case. You saw a lot of very easy turnovers, and I would say also on the back of that some very poor reactions when the ball turns over. And for us, you can't have both. If you're going to turn the ball over easily, you need to be really well positioned when those instances happen. You need to show real desperation to refine your shape and repair the structure that the opposition find difficult to break down, and we didn't have that today. So I think it's an element of there being a bit of lifelessness with and without the ball to an extent.
You made an adjustment for the back. Does what you saw in the team have to do with that adjustment?
No, I think that was a point in the game where we wanted to have more attacking players on the pitch. We wanted to take some risks in the types of players that we brought on, and obviously that lends itself to a change in shape. We wanted profiles of players on the pitch that are unpredictable, and I think the fact that we end up defending in a back four also it's evidence to an extent of how difficult it is for us to do sometimes in that shape, and suddenly when you spend 80-85% of your time defending with a back five or a variation of a back five, suddenly you feel bare with the back four, and I think that told in instances. And yeah, we forced some transitions, we forced some moments as the game went on that maybe we wouldn't have done in the previous shape, but obviously we found ourselves very open when the ball turned over. So that's not just to do with the shape thing, by the way. That's for sure a combination of everything that I've talked about so far. But yeah, the shape, it was a roll of the dice, and we wanted to get some players on into slots that they feel comfortable in.
You spoke in the week about needing more from the Wingbacks. What did you think of their performance today?
I don't think we created a great deal in attacking the sides. I think a big part of the opening stages of the game, and I would say the moments that as the game went on that we found success in were switches of play and making sure that we could take the space on the sides that the opposition gave us. But I felt like far too often when we did manage to get in open water on the side of the pitch, we weren't successful in that last action or the second last action that would have seen us in behind the back line and able to cut back and cross. So I don't think there was a really, really positive performance across any of the players today, and I don't think any of them would argue the toss on that one with me. So I think those guys would fall into that bracket that we maybe didn't find them in the positions that we might have done as often as possible, but when we did, the ball also turned over pretty quick, and we weren't nearly as effective in attacking the sides of the pitch as we are normally.
Eric, you were connected with the Southampton job in a reported interview. What would you like to share about that?
It's news to me and nothing that I would comment on here.
How do you feel about Jong's debut performance today?
Yeah, it was nice to get him on the pitch. I feel like there haven't been a load of instances where it's a really obvious change for us, but today we felt like we could roll the dice and get him on the field and take those first steps, and I'm sure he had a couple of nice moments, and on reflection it's certainly something that I'll look at in detail, and we'll see where that will take him. Good. Thanks, guys.